bookshop. It's the bookshop. It's the bookshop of Beverly Farms.
Howdy, everybody. It is Sam Feifel, your host of John Updike's Ghost, your favorite little podcast about reading, literature, all things awesome, sometimes bookstores, and today about people in snarly green shirts with little white dots on them and that sort of thing, because I'm joined not by Hannah Harlow, the co-owner of the Bookshop of Beverly Farms, because she has something better to do, apparently. Instead, we are joined by Cyndle Plaisted Rials, creative writing teacher, writer, and co-author of Clearwater, A History of Its People and Places, one of the most obscure books you will ever find that also was written by me. And she has graciously given herself to you here on the pod. How are you doing today, Cyndle?
I am pretty good on this slushy Monday today, Sam.
I know. It's snowing out. I'm perturbed by that. Hannah is not assiduously shoveling the front steps of the bookshop. She is rather preparing for a school fair. We have been dominating the school fair marketplace lately in the Beverly area, Cyndle. I hope you know that.
I'm very glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it.
It's really a drug dealer mentality, because you make crappy money at these book fairs because we give 20% to the schools, which means we only take 20% for ourselves, which means we work very hard for a very little bit amount of money. However, we are tricking these kids into thinking that reading is fun, and that will make them lifelong customers of the bookshop instead of GameStop or whatever evil place they might otherwise go to.
It sounds like it'll pay off eventually.
I'm hoping so.
Once they get jobs, you'll be all set.
Exactly. Captain Underpants and,
Dog Man. You can't forget about Dog Man with those little kids.
Exactly. Very similar to the dirtweed that I bought in Boston in terms of getting you excited about things for the future. We are going to talk about what we are reading. Cyndle is also on the podcast because she is a super fan, has listened to many, many episodes, so she knows not to expect any sort of organization. However, she knows that we always have an agenda, and I have 2 books on my agenda. You've told me that you have 2 books on your agenda.
I do.
I'll start with my agenda because I believe that I have picked the 2 books that are farthest apart on the potential Sam is going to read spectrum.
Amazing.
On one end, we have Cormac McCarthy's All the Pretty Horses. And on the other end, we have Pickleballers by a woman named Alana Long. And I have not checked whether that is a fake name or not. I'm just going to assume that's her real name. And it is amazingly very similar to the sort of name that I would have made up if I were going to write a porny book about pickleballing. What is on your agenda?
That's an interesting combo. I have got Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I always cruise the new section at my library. I do not go into the stacks. I'm just looking at covers, and that's how I make my the beginnings of my choices.
That's where I found Pickleballers.
Yeah, that I don't even go into the library. I just go there. And I also grabbed a short story collection called Rejection by Tony Tulatimuti.
Wow. I've never heard of either of those books.
Look at that. That's a long name.
That is a long name. I was worried that you were actually reading Lady Macbeth. We were going to talk about Shakespeare, but we are not doing that.
No. And I actually, I'll get into that when we start talking about the book. But yeah, Shakespeare is not my strong suit.
No?
No, I know. English major. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
but no.
What the heck? I once taught, when I was teaching 9th grade English for 2 years, I taught Romeo and Juliet both times. And I think that book is one of my favorite books to teach ever because it is so good. The kids are tricked into loving Shakespeare.
Yeah, I think that's a staple of freshman year, I feel like, for a lot of kids.
Yeah. No,
but I missed that. I only took AP in high school, so I missed out on all the normal basic things that everybody reads, I feel like.
Really? And you didn't
I've never read To Kill a Mockingbird. Never read it.
You've never read To Kill a Mockingbird?
I know.
Wow.
It doesn't make any sense.
That's terrible. we read To Kill a Mockingbird to the kids when my daughter was like 9 or something. And I was like, oh, that went really great. And it was super. Everybody loved it. It was wonderful. And then I was like, oh, we should keep reading, famous, books to the kids, like, oh, literature, whatever. And so then I went to Steinbeck's, what's the one with Lenny, the big doofus guy?
Mice and Men.
Of Mice and Men. I was like, oh,
Never read that either.
We'll read of Mice and Men, right? I mean, like, hey. And apparently I had, because it's nice and small, and I was like, this is perfect to read to the kids.
Yeah.
But, it has like the N word in it like 100 times and like, sexual violence. And then, they get murdered at the end. And like halfway through the book, I was like, oh, actually, it turns out this isn't a good book. I had no idea. And
it's easy to forget those details. Like you remember the essence of the story, I feel like, and you don't remember all of the major plot points sometimes that are maybe not great for 9-year-olds.
No, it's not kid appropriate. Don't read of Mice. I can't actually, and now I
that's the major takeaway from this podcast.
I don't even know if it's still in curriculum. In retrospect, I was like, really? We had freshmen
I'm not
reading this shit? That's crazy talk.
It is. My daughter definitely read To Kill a Mockingbird last year when she was a freshman, but I have not heard anything of Mice and Men.
Interesting. I don't know. I love Steinbeck, so I was kind of shocked by it. But
my brother's a big Steinbeck fan. I can't think that I've read any of those books in their entirety.
Tortilla Flat, also amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like Grapes of Wrath is like his worst book. Don't read that.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's boring. All the other ones are like nice and crisp and, much more accessible.
That whole canonical thing is always so interesting. Like what makes it into that kind of list of these are the essential books you have to read, Right.
Well, what a good transition, because I believe that All the Pretty Horses, as a National Book Award winner, is, kind of canonical.
Yeah.
And so this has been on my list of things to read for a while because he died. And I was like, I have never actually read anything by Cormac McCarthy, right? I am a white male, considers myself quite literary. To have not read any Cormac McCarthy it was crazy. And we had it in the house. I knew we had it in the house. So I went and found it. And it looks like Kristen bought it we actually were trying to figure this out because I found the receipt is in the book. And we bought this on December 27th of 2000 from Borders Books and Music. And the receipt was like 10 pages into it. So Kristen believes
that's how far someone got.
That's how far she got. It was about 10 pages. And we were trying to figure out, I was like, why would we buy a book at Borders 2 days after Christmas? Like, that makes no sense. We must have gotten a gift card, but we paid in cash. So maybe cash is what they put for, this is before computers back then. Oh, sure, yeah. So maybe gift cards were cash back then. I don't know.
It might have even been one of those gift certificates that you never see anymore. Like a paper one.
It might have been a gift certificate. That's a very good point. It was $13 for paperback in 2000, actually.
Steal.
Which is, well, it seems like, what's this new one? This crappy Pickleballers book is $19. So that gives that's 50% inflation. That's quite a lot, actually. So I can see why Kristen did not read this book because, it violates a few things that make books accessible. One is, I didn't know this about Cormac McCarthy, but he hates commas. There are almost no commas in this book. He only uses commas really for attribution, like said Rollins or whatever. And like every once in a while he'll use it to separate off a preposition, but like there are full pages, like full paragraphs of an entire page that have no commas in it. So, definitely have to get in the flow. And also he does not use quotation marks. So it's like you have to get into it. However, all of that said, this book is amazing. Like, I get why it's fantastic. I read all the summaries of all the other books that go in this. Like, this is part of the Border trilogy. This is the first one. The other two are also about the Texas-Mexican border, but don't seem to be about the same character. But, and he also, like, I don't know, has kind of a weird infatuation with teenagers, it seems. All the main characters of his books are teenagers. And so the main character of this book is a 16-year-old named John Grady Cole, who grew up on a horse farm in rural Texas. And his mother was like the last in a long line of ranchers. And we're in like the 50s. It's just post World War II, maybe the early 60s. You know, he never gives us a year. And his mother has decided she wants nothing to do with the ranch anymore. She's selling it against 16-year-old John Grady Cole's wishes. And so in an act of defiance, because this is a thing you did apparently back in the 50s, he convinces his buddy Rawlings, who is 17, to ride their horses with nothing but like a pack on their back across the Rio Grande and down like 50 miles south into Texas, where he catches on as a like horse whisperer with a crazy Mexican hacienda, and then falls in love with the hacienda owner's teenage daughter. And then there's some horse stealing and whatnot. He ends up in a like shady Mexican prison. He gets beat a whole bunch. He like stabs a guy and kills him and like all kinds of crazy shit. He gets his ass kicked like 15 different times in the book. There's lots of discussion about swollen faces and missing teeth and arms out of place and whatnot. And it's just, I don't know, the pacing is amazing. The dialogue, like it's just like, it's like hyper male, all the guys talking like little 3-word sentences. I reckon, think a storm's coming. Reckon so. Is it going to kill us? Probably, you know. It's so, I would say I really enjoyed it, actually. I thought it was fucking amazing. But I can see why, you know,
it wasn't Kristen's thing.
Yeah, I can see why it wasn't her thing. I can see why, you know, the guy apparently was like kind of a bad dude, right? I don't know.
I mean, it seems like everybody is, right?
Everybody's a bad dude on some level. Yeah, that's for sure.
Just like another day, another disgraced author, right?
But I think he was like a famous dickhead. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody seemed all that sad when he died. Like his ex-wife was like, yeah, we were like impoverished the whole time, and
oh my gosh,
they lived rough from what I can tell. But I don't know, did you see the movie? It was a movie apparently.
I didn't, and I was thinking, because there's the movie of The Road too, isn't there?
Yeah, I actually love The Road too. I forgot about The Road.
I haven't read that at all. I'm aware that it exists, but can't say I've ever felt like a major pull to Cormac McCarthy.
Well, I can see why. It's like and
I don't think
dude. The Road is the same way, because The Road is just about this teenage boy whose father, you know, they're in post-apocalyptic hell or whatever, and he and his father like are alone on the road, and then I think his father eats it, and then the 16-year-old boy has to go find another father figure, and then it just sort of ends.
Yeah.
But I also didn't watch.
I don't think I'll check that one out either.
There's only dudes. Like, there's no women who really are characters.
Yeah.
Also, I love it. One of my favorite things about this book is there's lots of like dialogue in Spanish that is not like translated for you, and you just sort of have to figure it out. And I think part of it is always that, like, you know, John Grady, he grew up with like Spanish, you know, sort of workers on their horse farm, so he knows Spanish, but his buddy Rollins doesn't know Spanish. So like, I think we're meant to sort of not know what's going on, which I really liked.
I feel like that's more authentic than like you're watching a movie and there's a character there that nobody there actually understands, but you know what they're saying because you've got the captions or whatever, the subtitles. It doesn't really, like, you're not in the position that the characters are in, so it kind of breaks that immersion. So I can see how that would be effective.
Yeah. I really liked it. And like, you know, sometimes they'll do that and then they'll like sort of rephrase it as part of the exposition or whatever, but no, we did not get that. So
interesting.
I don't know. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And I guess I don't think Cormac McCarthy needs my help to pimp his books, but I would say that if you have not given it a chance, you should try and give it a chance.
I'll try. I'll at least read a couple pages. That's what I usually do with anything I pick up at the library, and then bring back like 60% of it unread. But
that's the beauty of the library.
It is. Yeah, I'd feel bad if I bought all those books and then didn't read them, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right, tell me your
Um,
first library book. What's your transition?
So yeah, your mention of all these pulpy faces was one, and then language was another, actually, because Lady Macbeth is obviously a retelling of is by Ava Reid. I've never read her, but she's obviously got some other books that have come out before this one, because I guess this one was fairly anticipated. Obviously a retelling of Shakespeare's Macbeth, but from the perspective of the villain of the original story, which I had to like do a little Spark Notes reading, because I'm like, I think I'm pretty sure of what the general plot line of Macbeth is, but I wanted to know what, the differences are. So my story about Shakespeare is, for my undergrad, I only had to take one Shakespeare course.
Right.
And at the time that it fit into my schedule, there was like one professor that taught most of the Shakespeare courses at USM. And it just so happened that he was teaching the history plays when I was ready to take it and had space for it. And it was the Henriade and the Richard plays. And they were so boring.
They are kind of boring.
They're the worst ones.
Yeah. Totally.
It's just wars and dads and kings
and speeches, once more into the breach.
Exactly.
So boring.
Not really my thing. I don't even think I read a complete play in that class. I read what I needed to write my papers.
Oh my God.
I just skated through.
Nobody send this to your professor.
It's too late. They can't take my B back at this point. It was good enough for me. So I guess the obviously the main departure from Shakespeare's Macbeth is that this is from Lady Macbeth's perspective. It kind of put me in the mind of like a Wicked situation where, it's now we're empathizing with the villain and seeing things from their perspective. It was kind of interesting going into it, not really knowing exactly what was going to happen, because I didn't have the background of having read Shakespeare's Macbeth.
Right. Yeah.
And I wondered, that's kind of could be, on one hand, it could be good. On the other, it could be bad, because I'm not able to see, the references or the points of resonance. Or
did you read James?
No.
I think people who read James without having read Huckleberry Finn recently also have a similar experience where it's not quite it doesn't land quite as hard, because you don't see the turnabout quite as much. Is it similarly written in like modern, like sassy language, or is it?
It is not sassy,
or what?
It has kind of. Well, I was wondering at first when I went into it, it has like a dramatis personae at the beginning.
Oh.
Saying who all these characters are going to be. There are definitely characters there that don't seem to exist in the original Macbeth.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
There's
like made
characters.
up characters for this book.
Okay. Do we still get like Banquo and all those guys?
Yeah, Banquo's there. Yeah. I assumed that these two princes that show up later that are named Lysander, which is a character in another Shakespeare play, right? And Evander, these are two twin, brother princes that show up later. There are definitely some deviations. One of the most interesting things, I think, is that Lady Roskilde, which is Lady Macbeth's name, she comes from Brèche, France, basically. Right. She uses a lot of the, there's a note at the beginning, and I don't have the book with me because I actually listened to this.
Lysander's in A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking of, but I didn't want to misspeak because, like I said, Shakespeare knowledge, it's thin.
Right. Yeah. I had to look it up because I was like, wait, which one was it? Yeah.
Yeah. I knew it. I was like, I know that's a name I've heard in another one. This was my first experience listening to an audiobook.
Oh,
which I've talked to you about before. I've been like, I don't think I can get down with this whole no paper book thing and just listening to it. But I was pressed for time with having a big market coming up last weekend. And I was like, I'm just going to have to listen to this 9 hours of a book. So along with reading a new book, I was also having a brand new experience of absorbing a book.
Which is kind of sweet. I actually listened. become something of a audiobook convert, but
Yeah.
and you have to get into the way that you listen to it. I agree. Like, there were times where I lost like half of the first book just like spacing out.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. When I'm reading a book that I'm holding, I am locked in. My mind is not wandering. I'm like on that journey, but listening to it, I had to like rewind so many times because I just missed, the last 3 minutes because I was zoning out while driving or something.
Yeah.
So, but I felt like I don't have anything to compare it to, obviously, but I'm like a pretty picky media consumer, I would say. And I found the narration really engaging.
Who was the narrator? Do you know offhand? Was it the author?
Imani Jade.
Oh,
something. See if I can get it up on Spotify without making it start playing.
Yeah, don't do that.
Imani Jade Powers.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
She's English, and her voice was very just nice to listen to. I don't know how typical it is for audiobook narration to be, for the reader to use a lot of variation in the dialogue, but there's a lot of different accents happening.
Oh yeah, no, the good ones have a whole voice for each character and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
she definitely did that.
Yeah, the real high-end ones have like multiple voice actors.
Yeah.
But most narrators try to do at least some kind of like, different voice for each major character.
Yeah, she definitely did that. Like it was clear that it was her natural voice for all the, the background narration. And then like Lady Roskilde had a different accent because she came from France, and there's the Scottish characters, and there are kind of like more posh Scottish characters that sound more English, which is like the king
right.
In the story. One of the interesting things that I don't think is part of the original story is that she herself is seen as like a witch, or witch kissed, or witch touched. She has these eyes that apparently make men go crazy, so she has to wear a veil all the time. But what I thought was kind of weird about it is that there's like one experience that happens where she's from and it says very clearly her father like makes up this story because there's power in having this kind of weapon sort of in her.
Right.
Like just the threat of her eyes is enough to like make people get in line basically because she can drive them to madness.
Sure.
And I'm always up for like a witchy story. And obviously I know that, the three witches are part of Macbeth in general. So, of course, in the Shakespeare version, Lady Macbeth is the originator of all these schemes. Once this prophecy is heard that like her husband can be the king.
Yeah. She's the Machiavellian string puller. And poor Macbeth is like, what's going on? I don't know.
And in this story, it starts out with her being, she's arriving in Scotland to be married to Macbeth.
Right.
With her handmaiden. And that's the only other woman that is in this place. It's just her. And then they take her handmaiden, and so she's alone with all these dudes. And of course, there's all these fears of being ill-used by her husband and possibly his men and all of that. She's only 17. She's the one that ends up being manipulated. She's not doing the manipulating in the beginning. Right.
Yeah. Well, she got a bum rap in Macbeth, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. I know how you feel about Goodreads, but I do like to just see what other people are saying about things. What other people are saying about things. I know. But there were some people that felt like you took her like one of the best villains in like classic literature, best female villains, and like make her kind of powerless by making her just an instrument for a dude.
Yeah, she's kind of a badass.
Yeah, but she's not, definitely in the beginning, she's not a badass in Lady Macbeth. She's definitely trying to figure out how to navigate situations in a way that will keep her safe and ensure she doesn't have to sleep with her husband, basically. That was like a good, I don't know, a third the first third of the book. And actually her first manipulation for him to go and like defeat Cotter is, and like take over this other place and get rid of that lord so that he can collect that property and area, is just because she's heard some tradition they have in Scotland that you can ask 3 favors of your husband before you have to have your wedding night with him. So she's just trying to get him killed, make him leave, anything to not have sex.
Interesting.
Yeah. So she notices when she gets there, they don't have any jewels. They don't have precious metals, but she knows they do in Cotter. So she's like, I want a beautiful necklace.
I want some bling.
Yeah. She doesn't really care about that. She's solely trying to get out of the wedding night, but that works for a little while. Honestly, I don't really understand her. I mean, I get like culturally her objection to the idea of her husband in the time, 11th century Scotland, like you have no rights, right? But she hasn't met him before. He doesn't seem terrible when she meets him, but she has this like intense aversion to him from the beginning, like he's awful. And it just didn't seem like the story, like that impression of him was not earned by anything
didn't
that he
establish
did.
His badness.
No. Yeah.
I mean, we're in 11th century England here. By the time you're 17, it's like you're 40, right? I mean, you're dead by 35.
Yeah. She did talk at one point about how, she's pretty old to have no kids, and she should have like given some guy a whole house, a whole castle full of spawn by that point.
Yeah. They were shacking up by 14 back then. I mean, come on.
I am leery of giving away too much of this story, but there's a big departure. And I was desperately worried that I was going to run into some dragon sex. It was looking that way.
Well,
I was like, please.
That's like, this is sometimes
like a lady and a dragon. That just seems really impossible
or painful.
For sure.
Well, that's a good transition because I read Pickleballers, which is not set in the 11th century. And no one seems to be avoiding wedding nights in this book. So this is part of this new, romance explosion. I don't know if you know about this in the book world.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm at least tangentially aware of book talk. I'm not
Do you read romances?
No, not really.
I've started reading them only because I need to understand this whole phenomenon. Like, are there good romances? Are there bad romances? And I like in general, big picture, I like the themed romances because I think they're hilarious. Like I read one over the winter that was set at like a ski area, and so I was like, oh, it's all about skiing. And they all these little scenes about skiing. That one was rather tame. I'm spacing on the name of it. It doesn't really matter.
I feel like I heard you talk about it.
That was like all they did was kind of smooch and like heavy petting, that sort of thing. This one, I'm only halfway through it. I'm pretty sure I'll finish it. I'm sort of deciding as I'm talking, really. And I haven't banged yet, but there are multiple, it was crazy. Like in like the 3rd page, there was like this whole like fantasy scene where she was like, getting it on with this guy in her brain. And I was like, oh, we're on 3rd page and we're already,
we're just getting right into it.
Yeah. I was like, wow, but it's actually, I don't know. It's kind of funny, I guess. So also my father is like obsessed with pickleball. He's obsessed with pickleball. He plays 6 hours a day. And to the point where he made us, didn't make us, but he is now a member at the Pickler. Do you know what the Pickler is?
I do not.
So it is an indoor pickleball emporium called the Pickler in Westbrook, Maine, where they have taken an old Shaw's supermarket, and there are now 19 pickleball courts in this old Shaw's.
That's a lot
and
of
pickleball.
pickleball.
It is filled with largely white people. It's maybe the whitest place I've ever seen in my life. Although at the very end, like these two black people came in and started playing, and I was like, wow, you are brave because you are the only people of color in this establishment. There's like 200 people here. They're all identical. But so, I'm pickleball adjacent. And this book is hilarious because the conceit is that this woman, Meg, who is the main character, she was married to a man named Vance. And Vance left her by writing the words, "Sorry, I just can't do this anymore," on the back of a Home Depot receipt. And skedaddled after 2 years of marriage. No kids or anything, so low stakes. Only to like very quickly shack up with some French chick or whatever. And so to get herself, back out there, her friend Annie convinced her to start playing pickleball because it's a very, nice community. And so I'm assuming this is how all romances go, but this romance is particularly this way. Just a crazy, apparently, so it's all based in Seattle. I don't know if you knew that Bainbridge Island off of Seattle is the birthplace of pickleball. Apparently,
I did not.
I don't know if that's actually real, but that's what it says in the book. I didn't bother like Wikipediaing it. And so, we get lots of details about Seattle. It's a very small place, apparently, because you run into hunky guys all the time, just completely coincidentally. So she meets this hunky guy that she is, groping in her mind. And then it turns out, this is really terrible, that the hunky guy is the environmental consultant on the project that is ripping out the pickleball courts where she plays. So, he's trying to get rid of her pickleball courts. All the other pickleball players are telling her that she needs to advocate for the pickleball. And then does he really like her, or is he just trying to convince her to roll over and allow the project to go forward? And then she's out on Bainbridge Island. There's also something about a pickleball tournament where beginners play, and she's out there learning about the very history of pickleball and who should show up but the hunky guy who apparently grew up on Bainbridge Island. And I don't know, they're going to bang at some point. They have almost banged in her car, and they have almost banged on the pickleball court.
Oh, geez.
But right when they were, really getting hot and heavy, she hit a pickleball and hit him right in the junk. And, he had to take
you can't proceed after that.
No, he had to take a rain check that night because he had apparently bruises. I don't know. It was pickleballs are not, she must have hit the ball very hard because pickleballs don't have a lot of weight behind them. But so two things. One is I've definitely laughed out loud like 4 or 5 times reading this book. So it must not be that terrible.
Yeah.
But I think there's a like, I've had this conversation with Hannah about I cannot vibe with main characters where their central personality trait is like a total lack of confidence and or skittishness or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So many of the plot points involve, hunky guy cruising over, Meg being unable to speak, and one time she hid in a porta potty, which seemed extreme.
How old is this woman?
That's the whole thing. She's
30?
like 35 or something, She's married. She's already been married to Vance,
That's like junior high stuff, I feel like.
And I just feel like, it's written by a woman, Alana Long, although maybe it's a dude who just calls himself Alana Long.
Very possible.
Because the name is so fake seeming that maybe it's a fake person. And there is no author photo. No, there is. Alana Long first heard about pickleball when her sporty friend confessed that she was addicted to the game. No, she also wrote a picture book called Ziggy's Bad Idea. And she has multiple essays in the Chicken Soup for the Soul series.
Oh my gosh, who published this book?
It was published by Penguin Random House, actually.
What the heck?
Largest publisher in the world. So I just think like we could have I don't know, higher standards for our protagonists, so they don't have to just all be hapless bumblers all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like the whole Bella Swan, whatever the chick's name is in 50 Shades of Grey that is Bella Swan, but BDSM version, you know, like that's just kind of the trope, right? That they're these shy, inexperienced, bumbling, but really, really cute ladies that this mega hot guy is interested in for some reason.
Well, yeah. And the dudes, and I've noticed like the trope is actually the same thing in the ski book, right? Is that these mega hunky guys are like always like super considerate and kind. And, you know, she keeps being surprised by how kind he is. And, you know, just completely unperturbed by all of her bumbling around and falling down and being unable to speak, and is like, just couldn't be more interested in this woman.
Well, it makes you wonder, like, are these authors themselves? Because I do think, you know, a lot of romance authors are women. So are these characters like a self-insert, you know, something, I mean, I think a lot of writers are probably
right. I guess it's
challenged.
All about, well, I guess it's
or do they think readers relate to that more, you know, than a confident protagonist?
Is it like wish fulfillment or something? I mean, I do think like there's pretty clearly, you know, this whole social more against like women wanting to bang, right? Like I have to be like demure and, you know, whatever.
But like she does.
She totally does. No, she can't. Page. That's the whole thing is like she can't like. She is lust-filled on one hand, like just can't get this dude out of her brain. But on the other hand, so like, you know, unable to converse like a human being that there's many things suddenly come up that are, you know, just wacky.
That kind of bothers me when it feels, I think you've said something about this before, like if a conversation can like fix problem in the plot, then the plot's not good enough.
Right.
You know,
that's my whole thing is like, you know, generally all of the plot points involve someone just not asking the obvious question like, hey, why are you doing that? And the dude would be like, oh, well.
Oh, it was my cousin.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like, hey, why'd you put that sign up? Because of this reason, you know, but actually it takes 6 fucking chapters to figure out that it was totally benign. Oh, wow.
You got to come up with pages somehow, right?
I know. But I, you know, there's like a slapstick humor that I can appreciate, you know.
Yeah, that
like
sounds fun.
I do like slapstick, and, you know, she does get herself in all these ridiculous situations, and I don't know. It
sounds a little bit like pickleball, you've got mail. You've got pickleball.
It's exactly what it is. It is. It's you've got pickleball. That's actually correct. That is. But that's what's so funny is that it also like teaches you basically how to play pickleball, you know, like, and, you know, such and such instructor let her know that she needs to, you know, aim with her foot or whatever, you know. It's like, am I getting a pickleball lesson? Is this pickleball propaganda? Like, have she been paid by the pickleball industry? Like, what is going on here?
I mean, it definitely feels like a timeliness thing in terms of that book even being picked up, like the whole phenomenon of pickleball, you know?
Some editor must have been looking around. If it had been
shuffleboard, it probably wouldn't have been picked up.
Shuffleballers would be sweet. Shuffleboarders. Yes.
Shuffleboarders. That's probably like a 20 years older crowd.
Yeah, right? It takes place on seniors cruise, you know, plus 60 seniors cruise.
It's like challengers are for the 20-year-olds. Pickleballers is for the 35, 40-year-olds.
Exactly.
Shuffleboarders is for the senior citizens.
Oh, man, I got to write shuffleboarders. Someone's trying to, you know, turn the shuffleboard area into a dance class. We have to, you know, rise up and protect the shuffleboard game.
Oh my goodness!
But I'm so attracted to the guy leading the anti-shuffleboard. Oh my god! But anyway, I mean, I don't know. I don't know who these.
It sounds fun though.
Who are they for? I don't know. They're for women, I guess.
They're for, you know, horny, bored, 35 and 40-year-old women, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a romantic comedy. Yeah. Wow, who watches romantic comedies? You know, same basic idea.
They're not making them anymore, you know?
They don't make them anymore. It's not even a thing.
Like the heyday of that was like the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe to the, you know, 2000 teens. When have you seen a rom-com? anywhere.
I know. That's too bad. Everything has to blow up now, or there has to be some disaster or CGI or something, But, whatever happened to people falling downstairs in front of their love interest? I mean,
just falling into their arms.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, there's many injuries in pickleballers. Which is accurate.
Pickleball related and not, it sounds like.
Yes. All right, that's enough about pickleballers. I doubt anybody listening to this podcast will read pickleballers, but I did get a photo of the book while we were playing pickleball. So,
that's perfect.
Like Inception.
Pickleception. So, pretty good segue to Rejection.
Really?
By Tony Tulatamuti. In that it is all about people who cannot articulate what they want out of someone else. All of these stories, they are interconnected stories. I will say I have not completely finished the book. It's a pretty short one. It's only like 250 pages. And I'm on like 190. So I'm most of the way through, I think the second to last story. I'm just checking to see exactly how many are in here. I think it's probably like 6 or 7.
That's called Rejection?
Yes. Yeah, I can't quite tell if the last thing is a story or just kind of a...
Oh, yeah. Came out late last year.
Oh, that's a rejection letter at the end, I think, that he put in there. One of his rejection letters.
It won a National Book Award?
It did.
Oh, wow. We have multiple... it's long listed. Didn't win, just long.
No, he's an O. Henry Award and Whiting Award recipient.
Who's not?
And he's been published in the Paris Review, N+1, The Nation, New Republic, New York Times, all kinds of good places.
Yeah. A literary man.
Yes. As I was starting to read this, because I haven't read a short story collection in a long time. Like, I feel like that's a staple during, an MFA, an English undergrad for sure, but not something I know they're hard to get published, so there aren't a lot of them out there. And then I don't always think of short story collections, but it's nice to have... People
are scared of them in general. I don't know why.
Yeah.
They think that they must all be like hyper literary and,
Right. Yeah. I mean, these are definitely weird. They would be not wrong about that. And I do feel like it kind of, they did kind of bring me back to undergrad time because I wouldn't say that any of these stories are enjoyable to read.
Wow.
They're well written, but not enjoyable. It kind of reminded me of reading something for undergrad where something is important and well written, but it's not something you read for pleasure, And as I started reading this book, the first story is called The Feminist. Mm-hmm. And I had this sense that it was so familiar and it was bothering me because I was like, I feel like I've read this before, but this is a new book. It just came out, I think in September.
Yeah.
So I knew I hadn't read the book before, but I scouted around for it online and it turned out that I had read it, because it was published on, in N+1 mag in 2019. And it ended up, and it ended up being their most read piece of fiction in their 20 years of existence.
Wow. Well, that's
because it was interpreted in very conflicting ways by different groups of people. These stories are very like online kinds of stories. Like the characters are, there's like a lot of technology, like people that are, that do jobs that are, digital media engineer, different techie kind of jobs, I would say.
Yeah.
And they're all like very online.
They're on Twitter and Facebook.
Yes. Reddit, message boards. Yeah. All that stuff. So this first story, The Feminist, is about this, good white feminist guy who, cannot understand why he keeps getting friend zoned by all the women that he's attracted to.
Yeah.
So it's, it's full of him, ostensibly being, he's a women's studies major, for example.
Right. Yes.
He's got his, how does he describe the person? His QPOC friend who he checks in with, non-binary QPOC friend who he checks in with when he's like, was I a creep? Did I approach this wrong? You don't have to answer me. I know that you're not responsible for my education, but that kind of guy. Yeah. So slowly over decades, he descends into inceldom.
Yes.
So I think that was the big.
I like it. Yeah. That is very online. That is like,
so online.
That is core Reddit, incel-ness.
He ends up, I can't remember if it's starting.
They use like all the like Chad terminology.
Oh yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's brutal.
Yeah. It's, it has lots of things like message board posts, texts in some of the stories, different things like that.
Cool. Yeah.
It is interesting. He starts posting on all these different, message boards and blogs. The Empirical Agnate, Rationally Rude, Seneca's Revenge, and Narrow Shoulders, Open Minds, because he identifies as a man with narrow shoulders, and that's like the sticking point. That's why no woman will ever love him, because of his ridiculously narrow shoulders.
Yes, I love it. I got to read this.
I really think you would like it. I mean, when I said they're not enjoyable, I would say they're definitely well written. They're very interesting. The characters are all...
There's just nobody likable, right?
The characters are all totally awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the worst people. There's one... Go ahead.
Well, it reminds me a ton. Did you read David Foster Wallace's Brief Interviews with Hideous Men, which is also a short story collection?
I watched the movie of...
Oh, there's a movie of that?
Cool. Yeah.
Oh. I didn't even know that.
Interesting. I think probably pretty indie. I don't think it really went anywhere in theaters. That was years ago, but yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. It's like all these profiles of like just awful dudes. And it's like, it's so compelling, but every single dude, you're like, oh, I hate this guy.
Yes, it's definitely like that. I mean, so there were people in the incel space reading this as, feminism is a failure. This guy was a good feminist. Like,
they self-identified with that guy. Yeah.
He still didn't get anywhere. And all these women are like, this is exactly what we're talking about. This is a guy who acts like he thinks he's supposed to act, but still doesn't think this way. He still thinks like a misogynist. Right. So, there was a really big online so many think pieces about it when it came out. I'm sure I saw it posted on Facebook or something, and that's why I came across it in the first place back when it was published in N+1. But
I mean, if it creates that
think
much
you should
buzz,
check it out.
Something's going well. I will check it out. I will definitely read that.
I mean, he got like a $20,000 advance for his novel. And got a $350,000 advance for this. So,
wow.
So that buzz did something, you know? It's a big old advance for anything, but definitely for a short story collection.
That's a big old advance for a book that it sells pretty well. We sold one copy of that book back in January. It sat on our shelves.
This one?
Yeah, it sat on our shelves from September until January when we finally sold it.
Yeah. I mean,
it sells pretty well, though. It's like the 313th biggest book in the country right now, which is pretty good.
I mean, it's very of the moment. It's all this cultural, internet stuff. I mean, the main thing, like I said, I haven't read every story. I think there are maybe 2, like 1.5 or 2 left that I haven't gotten to yet. But what's kind of cool about it is there are common characters from one story to the next. Like, when this guy finally has sex at like 35, the girl is a girl he went to high school with. And the next story, she's the main character.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
So like he's in her story for like, a brief moment. She's in another story later. I would say that the first 3 characters really all kind of, they had different ways of, they had good different voices, which I think is important when you're either writing a novel from multiple perspectives or when you're writing short stories from all different character perspectives. They do all kind of feel like they're the same kind of person though. Like they all have this idea that they're owed something while simultaneously thinking they're like too fucked up or undesirable to get it.
Yeah,
they all need real friends that they actually like. All their
well, that
relationships
makes sense.
are just.
I mean, if you're going to call it rejection, right? I'm fine with them being themed like that.
Yeah, all their relationships are with are people they're connected to for optics, like that these people are cool, so I'm friends with them, or it looks good for me to have female friends because I'm a good feminist and I have queer friends and I have, Black friends. There's definitely racial themes.
Right.
A lot of it around Asian identity because I'm pretty sure Tony Tulatamuti is Thai American.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff about racism, particularly Asian. The third story was wild and so graphic. It's called Ahigao, or the Ballad of Sexual Repression. That was an interesting one. The one I just finished this morning, called Our Dope Future, is basically this grind set Elon Musk / Andrew Tate kind of character. Yeah. So much slang. You'll hate it.
It's like watching a car wreck. I love that shit sometimes.
The guy's 37, but the stuff that he says is just, it sounds
I get scared about that. The whole manosphere is very scary, having a 18-year-old son, you're just terrified that it will embrace him.
Yeah. There's not a lot of middle ground, it kind of feels like there's people coddling this sense of, you don't have to do anything. They're attacking your manhood. And then there's the other side of men are trash. And there's not a lot in the middle space of reality.
Discourse does not allow for a spectrum anywhere. There's the only two options. Anything is there. Things can be good and bad. That's it.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
I would say that reading this book it's kind of an uncomfortable experience, but it's definitely an interesting one. And I think if we were to say we can't see some aspects of ourselves, even in these horribly unlikable characters, we'd probably be lying, Well,
it also kind of sounds like it's for dudes. There's not a lot of fiction being written for men right now.
I would say it probably has. There's one of the stories is a female narrator. One of the stories is an AFAB, but agender character. So I would say it's kind of all over the spectrum. Definitely anybody that is super online would like it.
Or I always think
critical of being super online.
Or someone who doesn't, who wants a peek into that, right?
For sure.
That's why, Hannah and I were talking about Thousand Splendid Suns and, reading books like that. And you're like, I will give them some ridiculousness in their narration if I'm learning about this culture that I don't know anything about. And I think that is like a legitimate culture. I think for people, because, I am chronically online, and sometimes, I'm trying to break myself of that habit. But there are times where I'm like, you have no idea what's going on if you have not, spent an inordinate amount of time on Twitter, because it just doesn't even make sense. I think even the whole Elon Musk, takeover of our government right now, I think if you're not online all the time, you don't even know what's happening.
True. Yeah. And
and that's all fueled by that.
There's just so much. There's just so much information.
So much of that right-wing stuff is all Theo Vaughn and, all those right-wing podcasts or whatever.
Yeah.
That they're taking over our whole government. It's crazy.
It is crazy. That's why we're talking about books, so we don't cry about the state of the world. I don't cry about it. I'm sure you don't, Sam. Man, It's just me. I'll cry about it. If I don't distract myself with books about horrible people.
All right.
At least they're horrible fictional people.
Yeah, there's a lot of horrible people in All the Pretty Horses, but pickleballers, if you want just really benign people, read some pickleballers. We don't have any, I'm not going to pimp any events because we have them, but I do not have the information on them right now. So there's no reason to give out bad information, but I do know that nothing is coming up until the next podcast comes out. So you'll hear about it then. Hannah, I'm sure, will return should she grace us with her presence in the future. I'm sorry, Cyndle, that she abandoned you to me.
I was finally, I've met like most of the rest of your family, including like Texas cousins, but I have not met your sister.
I know. She's apparently, maybe she's a myth.
Elusive.
Yeah, maybe I've been having conversations with some sort of AI bot.
You generated an AI sister.
Yeah, exactly. John Updike's AI ghost is actually Hannah. Little known fact. No, people see her in the bookstore all the time. Have you even been to our bookstore? I
haven't. I wanted to come to the birthday party, but I wasn't able to make it. But I'm definitely gonna get down there.
The birthday party was banging. We had some amazing cake. A lot of people showed up. It was great. You would have very much enjoyed the dorky bookstore conversation that we had.
I'm sure I would have. I'm definitely gonna have to get down to an event there.
Well, we'll probably have another birthday party in 5 years or so. So
amazing. I'll put it on my calendar.
On the calendar. But thank you for being in here as a fill-in.
Thank you so much for having me.
You did an amazing job talking about books. We should have more guests. We had a guest from Pen America a couple times ago. So, I guess I'll have to keep putting effort into this podcast. Episode 89 is this 90? What is that?
It's a lot of episodes. A lot of books.
I know. I don't know. We're gonna have to do something special for episode 100 too. I don't know what it's gonna be.
Yeah, put your thinking cap on for that one.
Yes, all 150 or so listeners will get a rousing, amazing 100th episode. This is the time of the podcast where I start to lose focus. So we should probably finish it up. Thank you, Cyndle. Thank you to everybody for listening. And we will see you next time on John Updike's Ghost.